When preparing for consulting interviews, people focus so much on the case study part of the interview. But other parts, such as the experience interviews, are often overlooked by candidates and are not properly prepared. And this can really be a deal breaker for your consulting application. Today, we're going to talk about how you pass interviews at management consulting firms. So it doesn't matter if you want to apply to an MBB firm or a Big Four consulting firm, this video has you covered. Hi guys, my name is Heinrich and welcome to another coffee break here on my channel Firm Learning. On my channel I want to help you to become successful in the first years of your career. So it doesn't matter if you're working in consulting, in investment banking or in a corporate context, I'm here to help you. As always, if you're taking any value out of this video at all, please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm and also subscribe to this channel for weekly videos of me. And if you want to see even more content, I also have an Instagram. My handle is Firm Learning, so follow me on my Instagram as well to see even more content from me. Since I made this channel, many of you have approached me and asked me to talk about the interview process of management consulting firms. What does it take to pass these interviews? How exactly are these interviews structured? And what are my tips and tricks to help you get the job that you want? And I'm really passionate about this topic because the great thing for you as a candidate is that doesn't matter what consulting firm you apply to, the key building blocks of the interview that you will face are pretty similar among all the firms out there. So while of course there are differences among these firms, if you understand these basic building blocks that consulting interviews are made of, then you will be really well set for all these interviews to come. And the truth is, in the end, there are three of these building blocks. Three building blocks that most of these consulting interviews consist of. The first is the CV review part, so an interview section where the interviewer talks with you about your CV. The second is the experience interview, where the interviewer deep dives with you into specific situations, specific experiences that you had in the past. And the third is the case study interview. This is the section where the interviewer discusses with you a real business problem and wants to understand how you handle these kinds of problems as a candidate, because of course this will be the task that you are facing as a consultant. Beyond that, there are some other interview types as well that some of the firms use, but these more exotic components are not the focus of this video, because today I really want to drill it down to the basics to help you understand what you can expect in these interviews. So this video is structured now in three parts. First, I'm going to talk about the CV review interview, second about the experience interview, and third about the case study interview. And guys, if you get these three types of interviews right, then you will get that consulting job. But before now we jump into these three sections, I prepared something really special for you. I prepared a consulting interview preparation checklist that is a list of to-dos that I believe that you should do to prepare yourself for these interviews. It is structured along these different types of interviews and also gives some tips on these other more exotic interview formats. And from my perspective, if you do exactly what I'm writing in this checklist, then the chances are pretty high that you are very well prepared for the interviews to come. So if you're interested to get this checklist, it is completely free for you. Just look into the video description below. If there you subscribe to my newsletter, you will receive the checklist as a download link. And if you're already subscribed to the newsletter, of course, no problem, just enter your email again and you will get that checklist as well. Let's start with section number one, and this is the CV review interview. And as with all the other interview types to come, this can either be an independent interview session with an interviewer only covering your CV, but it can also be integrated in a session where you both have a CV review section and then later an experience interview or later a case study or a combination of all the three. So it's not necessarily the case that you have a full interview only discussing your CV, but often it is also integrated with other parts. So what is the objective of the CV review interview? Why are consulting firms doing this type of interview at all? And the truth is, usually the consulting firms do not use this interview section to sort out candidates based on their CVs, because this is what already happened in the pre-selection based on your written documents. So the fact that you got invited to the interview, the fact that you're now sitting in a room with an interviewer of the firm having this interview, usually already means that your CV was good enough. The HR department considered your CVs to meet all the criteria to get invited to the interview, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. So don't go into the interview with the mindset that now you need to prove yourself, with the mindset that maybe you're not good enough on the paper, because usually you are. But how do these firms use this type of interview? And it's usually really used for two things. First is just to build rapport and just to get to know you a bit better on a personal level. Often the CV review interview is rather done in the beginning, in one of the earlier, maybe even the first interview. It is supposed to break the ice a bit because, of course, as a candidate, it is believed that you can easily talk about yourself, and this puts you in less stress than, for instance, doing a more complicated case study. So just ease up a bit, be ready to build some rapport with your interviewer, get to know each other, and just try to have a good time. However, how some firms do use the CV review section is to drill down a bit, to deep dive a bit on some of the things that you write in your CV, and they might especially do that if they have some reason to maybe doubt whether some things that you write are really accurate or not. So be ready to receive some critical questions, maybe to explain a bit what you did on certain elements on the CV that you're writing about. Be ready to go into some level of detail to really give the interviewer the comfort that, of course, everything that you wrote is completely accurate and completely correct. One specific thing that I want to encourage you to prepare in advance for this interview section is to answer a question such as, please walk me through your CV, or please introduce yourself. This is a question commonly asked by the consultant in the beginning. This should be a sign for you to now give a short talk, maybe around 5 minutes, about your CV, about what you did in the past. So this is something you can really well prepare in advance before the interview. So just practice giving a short 5 minutes presentation about your background. Go over the key stations in your life, both from a professional but also from an educational perspective. And what's important here is to not get lost in the minor stuff. Do not talk for 3 minutes about an internship that you did at high school or something like that. Really focus on the things that matter, focus on the recent things that are really important. And this already is an important skill in business as well, and especially as a consultant. The interviewer wants to trust you that if you sit in front of a client and you're having such a professional conversation, that you can distinguish the things that matter from the things that do not matter. So take this already as a first little test and make sure that you are well prepared, because this is a question that very likely will come, and this is something that you can very easily prepare at home. The second interview section that you should feel ready for is the experience interview. In the experience interview, the interviewer will go into the details of specific instances, specific situations that you faced in the past, and how you handled, how you solved these instances. So what exactly are the interviewers looking for here? And while of course the criteria differ a bit firm by firm, the criteria for the McKinsey experience interview are transparently written on their website. They're looking for personal impact, for entrepreneurial drive, for problem-solving skills, and for leadership. So let's break that down. What does it mean? What are these people looking for? So let's start with personal impact. This is really about your achievements, about the things that you changed to the better. Stories about personal impact can both be from a business perspective or from a social community perspective, where you created something great for your community. Entrepreneurial drive can mean many things, but to sum it up, for me in a nutshell, it means to leave a bit the normal path, right? To not only do the things that are expected from you, but look for some creative ways to solve problems, to things that other people have not done before. Think a bit out of the box. This is what you should talk about when you address this entrepreneurship dimension. Problem-solving skills is about your analytical abilities. It is about cutting through complexity of complex business challenges. You can also talk about how you solved a complex interpersonal challenge that you had, maybe also with some other students in a university course that you took and where you really needed to make something happen. Talk about how you can solve problems that other people cannot solve. And the last dimension is your leadership ability. And while I agree that this is a bit overlapping with some of the other dimensions, for me leadership in this context mainly means doing well with other people. So maybe you're an experienced hire and already had some leadership experience in the past with actual teammates in the job. Or if you're fresh out of university, maybe in university you were a leading member of a club or maybe of a social organization that you're a member of the board of. So here talk about how you were able to motivate other people, to create a team, and as a team effort to get things done. This from my perspective is leadership, and this is what will be valued by consulting firms. And again, these are the McKinsey dimensions. Other consulting firms might have slightly different dimensions, but in the end of the day, these are the things that pretty much all consulting firms are looking for. And if you address in your experience interview these these types of dimensions, you will be perfectly fine. So what are typical questions that will be asked in these interviews? And again, here there might be differences firm by firm, but usually the questions are quite predictable. You will be asked to talk about an instance of your past where you achieved something that you are really proud of. Or you will be asked to talk about a team conflict that you had with another person in the past and how you were able to overcome that conflict, what you actually did to solve it. You might be asked about any specific element that you have on your CV to provide a story on how you really achieved an impact, how you really made a difference to the firm, to the organization that you were a member of or that you were working for in your CV. So these are the questions that you should expect, and here the first thing for the preparation is that these questions should not surprise you in the interview. You should never put yourself in a position that in the interview it's the first time that you're thinking about these things, and on the spot you need to come up with a story that happened in the past that addresses the question that you are asked. If this happens, then you were clearly not well prepared, and the likelihood is pretty high that you will not be able to just on the spot come up with the best story to tell in these instances. Therefore, what you absolutely need to do as a preparation to these interviews, that you at home, you think about what stories could be that would really address these different elements that we talked about. Come up with at least 5 stories that you could tell to answer questions like that, and prepare these stories. Come up with a basic structure about how you want to go about telling these stories. Think ahead what likely questions will be that the interviewer will then ask you about these stories, because of course, again, the interviewer will want to make sure that you're just not making something up. So he might ask some very detailed questions just to fact check you and to make sure that what you're talking about actually really happened. So be well prepared, have these stories ready in your head. So when an interviewer asks you these questions in an experience interview, you already know what you're going to talk about. And regarding the experience interview, what I want to end with is that what many people underestimate is how important this experience interview is. For most consulting firms, at least based on the information that I have, the experience interview is easily as important as the case studies. But people in their preparation time usually put the vast majority into the case studies, but only spend very little time making sure that they get the experience interview right. Don't be one of these people. Make sure that you have your stories ready and well prepared. This way you will make a great impression at your experience interviews, and then the experience interview will be a success for you. Now to the third section of this video, and this is the case study interview. The case study interview is the most iconic part of interviewing with consulting firms. This is the type of interview that is most specific to consulting. Usually if you interview in a corporate or even in a banking situation, you do not have case studies, at least not in the number and the depth that you have in a consulting interview. Now for sure I could go into lots of detail on the case study interview. This alone would be material for a whole new video. Probably it would be material for a multi-hour course to get ready for this case study interview. But in this video I just want to give you the highlights. I just want to give you the basic structures, the basic things that you need to have in your mind when facing such an interview. So what can you expect when going into a case study interview? The interviewer will often pitch you a business problem. We'll talk about a challenging business situation that now you are supposed to solve, that you are now supposed to give your thinking, your structuring on. These business problems are often adapted from actual projects that the interviewer was working on in the past. And the purpose of all of this is of course to now discuss with you issues that you might very well face, that you might very well experience in your work as a consultant as well. And of course now the firms are interested to see whether you can handle these problems, whether you can come up with some valuable insights, some valuable structures that would be actually helpful in a real consulting project as well. And one of the most important things when you now face such a case study is that you need to understand what type of case study now you are facing. And here there are probably at least 2 important distinctions that you need to understand. The first is the whole format of the case study. And generally you can distinguish 2 types of case study formats. There's the interviewer-led case study format and the interviewee-led case study format. So how do these 2 formats distinguish themselves? In the interviewer-led format, the interviewer will lead the whole conversation. He will guide you through the case study and he will go question by question. He will present a little part of such a more complex business problem and he will expect you now to come up with an answer, to come up with a solution to this part. And once you had a bit of a discussion about this specific part, he might completely change the topic to another aspect of this whole case study and then he will go into the details about this new part of you. So this is now a format when you are much more on the receiving end. You're not supposed to now guide the interviewer through his case study, but it's rather you answering questions that you will get on a specific business problem. This interviewer-led format is famously known by McKinsey as their go-to format in their interviews, but of course many other consulting firms use the interviewer-led format as well. The interviewee-led format is a bit different in the sense that now you as the interviewee, now you as a candidate, you are now into the driving seat of this whole interview. And what this means is that usually in the beginning, the interviewer will give you a bit of a context, a bit of a situation, and will describe the overall problem for you. So for instance, he might talk about a business, give you some specifics on that business, and now will ask a rather open question of what this business should do to improve its profits. But now you are in the lead as a candidate, you are in the lead as an interviewee. Now the interviewer will expect you to now ask questions to the interviewer about additional information that you now want to have in order now to come to a solution. So here now do not wait that the interviewer gives all the relevant information to you, but you're now supposed to really ask the interviewer all the things that you believe are relevant, all the things that you want to know to now come to a conclusion. The second key distinction between different types of case studies, or maybe also between different questions within one case study, is whether this is rather a qualitative or a quantitative answer that you are now supposed to give. So questions looking for qualitative answers are, for instance, something like, okay, please tell me about the different aspects that are driving this problem. Or tell me about the different ways what a company can do to cut its costs. These are questions that are looking for qualitative answers. And with these qualitative questions, what you are supposed to do is not to just say the first things that come through your head, but is rather to come up with a structure and to propose the structure to your interviewer as a solution. For these qualitative case study questions, you can look up lots and lots of frameworks online on how you can approach and solve these different types of qualitative questions. He wants to see that you are a structured guy who can in a repeatable way propose solutions to complex business situations. So contrasted to these qualitative questions, there are now also the quantitative questions. And here what you're supposed to do are calculations. If you are asked to come up now with a certain number, with a certain result, here you're now really supposed to do some math, to do some calculations. What you should really do to practice for these kind of interview questions is to do math calculations both in your head as mental math, but also with pen and paper. So practice to do complex divisions or multiplications with pen and paper without a calculator, because in these interviews you are usually not given a calculator. So what can you do to really prepare well for these case studies? There's one thing that I see many people do, but I just do not believe that it's really a good thing. And this is going online and learning 20, 30, 40, 50 types of different frameworks at heart, just hoping that you will get asked the exact same question that now in this mock case study online was asked, and then hoping that by this you will come up with the perfect answer. This is usually not what will help you to do well. Yes, it's okay and also helpful to have a couple of frameworks in your head, a couple of frameworks that you can also easily tailor to different types of questions, and then this will help you to answer especially the qualitative types of interview questions, but be reasonable and don't do too much on that. Instead, what you should do is to do mock case studies with other actual people. What I did when I prepared for case study interviews back in the days when I interviewed with McKinsey is that I partnered up with another person that was also interviewing with MBB consulting firms, and we met once a week or so and always prepared about 2 case studies for each other for every session that we met, and then we interviewed us, we had such an interview, and then we gave us feedback on what went well, what didn't went well, and this for me really was super useful for getting these case study interviews right. So how many case studies should you do to feel ready? Well, probably 3, 4, 5 is too little. Probably 30, 40, 50 is just far too much. You will just go crazy at some point. What I would recommend you is to aim for something like 10 to 20 mock case studies. This should be completely fine to get you used to the format. By doing 10 plus mock interviews, ideally also with different people, you will build some confidence and you can actually master this interview type. And this, from my perspective, is the most important part. So these were my suggestions for the 3 most important interview parts. First, the CV review. Second, the experience interview, and then third, the case study interview. Now, if you want to learn even more about how you can ace the consulting interview, have a look at the checklist that I prepared for you for the really actionable to-dos that you need to get right before you now sit in such an interview. Again, you can find the download link to this interview checklist below in the video description. Just enter your email below and I will send you a link to this preparation checklist to help you get ready. As always, if you were taking any value out of this video at all, please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm and also subscribe to my channel. Please also turn on the notification bell by clicking on all videos, because otherwise YouTube might not inform you about all videos that I release even though you're already subscribed to me. And last but not least, if you want to see even more content, also follow me on my Instagram. My handle is FirmLearning. Thank you so much for your time. I really hope that this added value to you, that this helped you now to master your next interview. If you have any other questions, just leave a comment below in the comment section. I will do my very best to answer every single one. Thank you for being here with me. A good weekend to all of you. This is Heinrich from FirmLearning.